All right, welcome everyone to a regular Board of Selectmen meeting for May 1st, 2023. We will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. We have got a full board, therefore a quorum. Before we dive into our meeting, the board would just like to express their deepest condolences on the death of Steve Gilbert last week. So our hearts go out to Fred and Lynn, Quinn and Tyler, and the extended families. Just a year ago, Steve was sitting here, a very active member, loving the town of Rangeley and everything that was a part of living here. And so it's a deep loss for the town and for the family, and our hearts go out to everyone. Conflict of interest disclosure. If at any point during the agenda a board member should find they have a conflict of interest, please let the board know. Adjustments to the agenda. Joe, anything additional other than diving right in with Becky Bowering?
Nothing other than later in the agenda under my report, I want to talk to you about the scenic byway grant. That's not on the agenda. Just want to bring that up.
Okay.
Later on in the meeting. Otherwise, no adjustments.
Okay. Scenic byway. All right, Becky, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Turn it over to you.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I was really disappointed that I couldn't be there in person, but no matter how much I begged, they wouldn't let me through the closed roads to get there. So here we are by Zoom. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Becky Bowering. I work at Franklin Savings Bank as the Business Solutions Officer. I've been with the bank for 23 years, and I work with all of the bank's municipalities. I'd like to speak to you today about an alternative to investments that we'd like to offer you as an option that keeps your funds local and offers a great return. CDARS is a fully FDIC insured CD option for government funds. There are no fees associated with this type of CD, and we would like to offer the town of Rangeley a 4-week CDARS with an annual percentage yield of 4.59%, and also a 7-month CDARS with an annual percentage yield of 4.59%. The benefit of the 4-week CDARS, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. If you say you weren't comfortable tying funds up long term, but you might be comfortable putting some extra funds away in a CD for just 4 weeks, and then when the 4 weeks, after the 4 weeks at maturity, we can reach back out and see if you'd like to invest for another 4 weeks. So it allows you to tie up some funds that you might not otherwise be comfortable tying up. And then of course the 7-month, which is the same APY, but if you're comfortable tying something up long-term at a guaranteed APY of 4.59, you might be interested in the 7-month CDARS. As I said, the CDARS is fully FDIC insured. It keeps your funds local. And that's kind of our offer in a nutshell. I guess I just wonder if any of you have any questions about the CDARS.
Is there a cap?
No. We can, you mean for FDIC coverage?
Right.
No, so we can cover up to like 150 million through CDARS.
And why wouldn't the APY for 7 months be higher?
Well, so as I said, we have a special right now, which is the 7-month, but we're also willing to offer the town that same APY in 4-week terms, so that in case you were comfortable tying up a little bit more of your funds in CDARS, we're offering that same APY for the 4 weeks in 4-week increments.
Okay, so what you're saying, if I'm interpreting correctly,
Yeah,
Becky, is that
sorry.
is that the 4-week, is that a typical product or no? Is that just kind of geared towards municipalities or?
Yeah. So no, I'm sorry, I didn't say that properly. The 7-month CD is one of our normal products, which is at 4.59. A 4-week CDARS is not a publicized CD. And so it is a special that we offer to municipalities or nonprofits through the CDARS product.
Am I allowed to throw something in there real quick?
Go ahead.
Just on the topic of long-term CDs to short-term, one super odd thing is with these rate hikes that we've been seeing the last few months, if you actually do compare anywhere your 7-month, 12-month CD rate to like a 5-year, 2-year CD rate for textbook, your 5-year, 2-year, you'd see a higher rate. But right now, no one truly knows, economists, bankers, no one knows what the heck's gonna happen in the
Right.
next 12 months. So that's why we're seeing high rates on a short-term level
Yeah.
rather than that long-term higher percentage rate.
Yeah, I
So it is
guess,
super funky.
yeah, that
But
makes,
for us, I guess speaking just with Becky, we were trying to keep it clean. Our
Yeah.
7-month, 4.5,
Yeah.
even down, and Becky, in between 4 weeks to 7 months, pretty customizable with in between those two terms. Am I correct?
Yes.
So like you could set up a ladder effect if you didn't want to tie up a bunch in a 4-week or a bunch in a 7-month. You could put an X amount in a shorter term and then a little bit longer, always having a certain amount coming due throughout a period of time.
Mhm.
So
yes, Shelley.
So when you say CDARS, is that the same as CDARS where you take the CDs and you break them down in between banking to make sure the FDIC coverage is available? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so through our interfinancial network, we're part of an interfinancial network, and other banks that are a part of that network. The funds get broken down into certain increments to make sure that you're fully FDIC insured, but they send us reciprocal deposits in the same amounts to allow us to keep that money local and being able to be lent back out into our community.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with the 7-month CD rate at the 4.59, is that your preferred customer rate? Because I know you guys can get exceptions because I do the same thing at my bank.
That is our that's our 7-month regular rate, 7-month rate. The 4-week is our preferred customer rate for a 4-week CD. Yes.
So you don't offer special rates for people that have the higher deposit relationship?
We do, and that's the 4.59. I mean, the 4.59 at 4 weeks.
So if we decided to do the 7-month, would that be an option for having that rate increased? Where that's the one that you actually have on the books that you offer to everybody?
I think that the 4.50 is what we'd be comfortable at for the 7-month.
if there was something, I'll just speak, Becky, real quick.
Yes, sure.
If there was something, we don't really want to mess with like that 7-month is a 7-month special facility as it is. If there was something the town is seeing at a 6-month even that was more competitive, we will 100% be willing to see where that's coming from. Really, we'd like to just see it in our market. Clearly, you can get a 6-month in Las Vegas for probably higher than 4.5%, but we're aggressive to match and retain any relationship that we have with the town. But specifically, as silly as it sounds, that 7-month product is supposed to stay at 4.5, but a 6-month or whatever is negotiable. 4-week negotiable. Anything's very customizable.
Ethan?
I think you kind of touched on what I was going to ask was if I go online and find a better rate, what's the reason for the town losing a percentage just to stay local? Because I hear this stay local thing all the time, and I love my community, but Franklin Bank, Skowhegan banks that just have branches in this town. They're not local banks, and just what you just said kind of touched on it. So if we found a rate somewhere and you guys want our business bad enough to match it, then absolutely, we will. I'd be in favor of staying where we're at, but I don't want to lose a percentage or a locality.
Yeah, I guess local as in like not being a Rangeley based bank. Is that what you mean by we're not a local bank, or?
Right, it's not a Rangeley company. A local company is the Rangeley Builder Supply Mortar Furniture.
Oh, absolutely.
Those are local companies. These two places have branches here. That's the way I feel.
I got you.
So I mean, all I'm saying is.
So like Allied Real, I would just try and compare that to like Allied Realty has a local office,
Sure.
but that you wouldn't consider them as a local business.
No.
Okay, gotcha. So then in that case, yeah, we're not necessarily a local Rangeley business, but we 100% love this community. We invest, if you look at like where our scholarships go to every school that we have a branch located outside of Farmington. I don't know, Becky, if you know right offhand how much we do just in scholarships.
I've lived here a long time. I'm not
Gotcha,
negating what you, Leanna Wilbur was my second mother, so it's fine.
Okay.
But all I was saying, like in a prior meeting that we had, we talked about this, like we put a road project out to bid. We don't hire people in this town just because we like them. They do a lot for the community. Whoever comes in with the best bid gets it. So if somebody in Vegas has it, then unless you want to match it, that's where I want to head.
Oh, 100%, and I'm sure the taxpayers would be the same way. I mean, they want probably the cheapest on a RFP for road development. They
Right.
want cheap but quality.
That's right.
If you're gonna get a percentage higher, and it's gonna help the overall budget, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
hard to,
But if you guys are willing to work with it, then that's awesome.
100%.
Any more questions? All right. Anything additional, Becky, Seth? Okay,
Not this time.
all right. Well, thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be discussing this down the road. All right.
Thanks, Becky.
See you,
Hi,
Becky.
Becky.
Have a good night. All right, moving on to review and approve meeting minutes for April 18, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for April 18th, 2022, as presented with any corrections.
2022,
23, sorry, 23.
Shelley's motion. And Sam seconds. Any suggested corrections? All those in favor? And all those abstaining? 3 in favor, 2 abstain. Any public to speak on a non-agenda item? Let's see. Boards and committees, we have got meeting minutes for March 16th from the Park Commission and April 12th from the Planning Board. Any questions from the board regarding these minutes? Yeah, go ahead, Shelley.
So one of the things that they mentioned is under new business, the town dock unable to occur this year. What do we do between now and then? Change the fencing and have a sign. And then it says, Joe, you're bringing it to us. In their minutes.
Right, so where I'm at right now is I've reached out to the fencing company for a quote.
Okay.
And when I get a quote, I'll bring it to you. Most likely bring it to you because I anticipate that would be a reserve account expenditure.
Okay.
But prior to having that quote, I'm not ready to bring it to you. The suggestion was to update the plastic fencing to like the coated chain link or something. It's a little more long-term. Keep people off that section of the dock. So when I have a quote, Madam Chair, I'll bring it to the board.
Thank you, Joe. Any other questions regarding the either minutes? Right, under consent items, Joe is requesting authorization from the board to sell the blue 2015 Ford Police Cruiser. And Joe, so is this sealed bid, open bid?
I would think we would use Municipal, which is an online bidding service. I've signed up for that. It's essentially an online auction.
Yeah.
So
What was that? What was it?
Do we have a minimum that you intend to put on it on municipal?
I haven't really thought about that yet. I know when we talked about during budget season a couple of years ago, we talked about that car, we thought it was worth a couple thousand.
Oh, you thought it was worth that, excuse me, you thought it was worth that until we blue booked it, and then we talked about it some more, so I would suggest blue booking it, now it's been sitting for a while, I don't know if Gene has to look at it or something, just see what's wrong with it before you blue book it, that way you know what to punch in, but the minimum should be somewhere around there, in my opinion, or somewhere a little bit lower, that way we're not, you know, we're not taking a loss, but $2,000 is ridiculous for a 2015 car.
Well, it would be the minimum bid, that would be.
Right, but I would want the minimum somewhere higher than that, so.
So asking Joe to refer to Kelly Blue Book.
Well,
and
at
just
least
see,
use it in consideration for what you're gonna put it out to bid for.
Okay, Shelley?
So with that, is it exactly like how the county does theirs, where it basically, if someone doesn't get to wait to the last minute to do $1 more, it puts it out there for an extended period of time? So you basically have an hour, so everyone has the opportunity to bid on that.
I don't know if it's an hour, Madam Chair. I do know that there's, in what I read, there's like a 2-minute prolongment, if you will, so that folks can't wait till the last second to snipe everybody else. I don't know if it goes as high as an hour. I haven't got that far yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a
does have that
period of
feature, so-
time. That's why more people were bidding and bidding and bidding. And so they got more than for their cruiser than they would have if they would have just put it out with a sealed bid.
Right. Yeah, it's our first time using Municipal, so I'm very, very excited, very curious how that will go, but yeah, maybe
The
there are,
accountants had good luck with it though. That's what the counties used the last couple of times.
Yeah, they have.
Is municipal, so they've had great luck with it.
Yep.
good.
But they have that time delay. So it's like, yeah, those people that just wait to do the $1, they don't have that chance.
That's
It's open
awesome.
for a certain period of time, so they can,
Mhm.
they actually got some good ones. Bids.
These police cruises are popular for people, passenger vehicles. I see state police cruises all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People slow down when you see it, see it coming.
Yeah, because they don't take that mirror off the side.
Oh, goodness. So we need a motion to authorize the town manager to sell the 2015 Ford Police Cruiser.
So moved.
I make a motion to authorize the town manager to sell the 2015 Ford Police Cruiser and to refer to Kelly Blue Book and place the bid at no less than half what the Kelly Blue Book price is. The
Ethan's,
minimum bid.
Ethan's motion and Ethna seconds. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, next up, mileage reimbursement rate increase to 0.655. Joe's got a nice explanation in here, but for the sake of our viewing audience, you could review your.
Sure, Madam Chair. So our current rate that you set is 62.5 cents. That was the IRS rate for the second half of 2022. In January, that rate went up. But per our policy, in order for me to adjust it, I need to consult with you about moving the rate. So the state rate appears to be based on a whole host of collective bargaining units across the state. It's at 46 cents a mile. So our policy says the default is the state of Maine rate. Rangeley has used IRS rate for quite a while. I don't know exactly how long, as long as I can remember. We don't have a lot of mileage reimbursement items anyway, but I recommend the IRS rate, which went up first of January to 65.5 cents.
Yes.
What did we
Ethna,
budget at?
what did we budget at? Probably the current 62.5, since we haven't increased, you know.
But this IRS increase has been in place since January, and we just decided we wanted to go with it rather than during budget season or during the budget process.
I don't know.
I'm just concerned that we didn't budget properly for it. I realize in the grand scheme of things, it's not gonna. But for future reference, if it could be brought up and adjusted and talked about during the budget process.
Any other questions or comments? All right, so if the board wishes to increase the mileage reimbursement to the current IRS rate of 65.5, we need a motion.
Make a motion, we adjust the mileage rate to the 2023 IRS rate at 65.5, $65, 65.5 cents a mile.
Ethan's motion
See how the
That
dollars.
was local motion.
and Sam seconds. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. We've got a quick claim deed. Next to release a couple of 2002 tax liens. So we need a motion from the board to approve the municipal quitclaim deed. As presented.
Make a motion to approve the quitclaim deed for parcel 1, known as book 135.5, page 42, and parcel 2 is described as, oh my goodness, the book. Where's my book? Certificate of lien release. Or am I just releasing the 2?
Yeah, I think it's just the lien certificates at the bottom, but there's no book and page reference for the deed.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna start over. I make a motion to approve the quitclaim deed that is due to a tax lien was placed on map and lot 42-021 and 022 on 10/8/2022. The discharge was completed after a foreclosure sale. And we're voting to approve and sign the quitclaim deed for maps and lots 042-021 and 022.
Second.
Shelley's motion and Ethan's seconds. Any other questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And we have that to sign after the meeting. We've got a cleaning contract done by Dove Cleaning. Joe, was this the only response to the?
So Madam Chair, there was no RFP release. This is an automatic renewal
Okay.
possibility. It's written in the current agreement, which expires, I think, June 30th. So bring it to you and ask for authorization to sign a renewal on the same terms and conditions. for another year.
Make a motion to approve the cleaning contract with Dove Cleaning to renew their contract with the same terms and conditions.
Shelley's motion
Second.
and Ethan seconds. Any questions or comments? Yes, Ethna.
Is this in practice with our policy? I'm just asking, I mean, is this something that we're gonna continue to just renew this one rather than put them out, or?
This allows for just one renewal,
Okay.
1 year renewal is all that this particular contract allows.
Just making sure, I wanted to
Okay.
make sure we weren't going to divert from the policy that's in place for
Yeah.
certain.
Yeah, so this will have to go out to RFP next year. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. We do not have any correspondence. Moving into old business, number 9, we have got the banking RFP / investments. And Joe, you've got a nice summary in your town manager notes, if you just want to summarize verbally.
Be happy to, Madam Chair. So this is another one of the RFPs that is now in a automatic extension. It was put out to RFP in 2017. That was a question the board had asked at the last meeting. And the process was gone through. The board ultimately selected Franklin Savings Bank. So 5 years from then would have been last fall. Now you're at a 1 year extension. So it's a prudent time for the board to think about whether you want to re-release an RFP, or if you want to. I believe that agreement doesn't limit it to 1 year or one year extension. But the reason it was also prudent for Becky and Seth to be here tonight is that regardless of which way the board decides to go, if you want to release a new RFP, if you're comfortable going for another year, you have some period of time between now and when this 1 year automatic extension runs out. So 7 months fits into that, just barely. 6 months might be a better fit. 4 months might be, 4 weeks rather, might be something that you're interested in that time frame. But the RFP was last released 2017, we're 5 year agreement, 1 year extension. And it's really up to you. If you want to re-release that, there's I don't believe you're required by policy to re-release that. But it is kind of a rule of thumb, for things like legal and financial, things like that, every 5 or 6 years to freshen that up. So that's why this information has come back to you, or come to you tonight. And then when Rebecca and I spoke with Becky the other day, she told us about this kind of shorter term CDAR product. So why don't we talk about that with the board to see if that'll give you some comfort. So I understand there are two, in piecing the last couple of months together, there's been some interest from the board to talk about investments, kind of in their own little pocket. And then the question about when was it a banking RFP release. So there are a couple of ways you can approach that. You could divide them into 2 buckets, or you could say, here's the RFP for banking, and we also want, as an attachment to that, we want to have investment proposals from folks. I would think if you do go to RFP, that you might devise it that way. So there's an attachment that folks who specialize in just investments could say, well, we're not a bank, but we're a firm that handles investment things outside of the bank. Maybe they can propose separately from the banking services, but also the option for folks to do both. And be able to propose the whole package. So those are some thoughts I've come up with.
Joe?
I don't think we're gonna invest a lot in order to have that included in a format of some sort. I mean, you have financial advisors and then you have banks. That, to me, that's 2 different things, but to put that in on that category. Most towns do like CDs and things like that. And there are some that go out and do bonds and things, but they typically have their own financial advisor when they do that.
As part of the banking arm as far as the banking service.
Not
goes.
necessarily. I mean, it could be anybody that has or offers annuities or something like that. It might be something totally not like something what a bank would offer.
Yeah, I think there are 11 or 12 potential investment items laid out in that investment policy. Some of them are a little obscure, Canadian securities or something like that.
Right.
I've never heard of a town getting involved with, but I'm sure some of them do, if it's in the policy. You know, if you could put that as part of the attachment, which we think we did last time we put it out, we put the investment policy in there.
Yeah.
So here's what we can do by policy, what do you propose that we do it? You can
Right.
approach it that way and just, you
Yeah.
know, have people propose out of that list. The other thought I had was to make a matrix of those 12. You know, what rates can you supply for, you know, these durations? Or we could let the proposers do that, you know, let them do that work for us, so you can see it. But there's no loss, I don't think, in breaking it that up or making an attachment so folks could just propose something from the investment side of things as opposed to getting into the whole thing. But that's really your preference, if you want to do it that way. Again, initially, I was just looking at this from the investment side of things, but now I realize it's right. It's an appropriate time to look at banking as a whole too. So it really has to do with your comfort level. I mean, we're comfortable with these folks. That's not to say you shouldn't put out the RFP. It just means if you want to focus on investments right now, this would be probably a time to look at that before anything happens with rates. And I know they can't talk about that. That's something we should think about.
Well, I mean, we put an RFP out for our attorney of 30 years. I think it's common practice. It's you know, whether we change or not, it's what we do. So I think we should go out, for a banking RFP. And personally, I like to see some constant investing. Just a constant revolving door of investing. I mean, let's put $1 million in the 4-week CD and let's get started with something. And then,
Oh, yeah, Cindy, sorry, because the more we talk about it, the more time our money's not sitting. So we're making
absolutely,
money.
Yeah, because we've been talking about it since
So, I mean,
December.
I'd like to see whatever we decide, we put this out to RFP, we're gonna get 5 banks, we're gonna get you, we're gonna get Skagit, we're gonna get Andrew Skagit, maybe Bangor City, we've done a bunch of main banks.
TD Bank.
Great, there's your RFP. Then I want to see the finance director go and do some hunting and see what the rates are beyond this RFP and see if these guys are lining up. And if they're not, and she finds one, then I wanted to talk to Seth and whoever else and be like, listen, you guys gave us this nice proposal, it's beautiful, we love the work you do for us. But I just went online for 13 minutes and I figured out this, and this, and these guys can do this. We really don't want to send it to California, but we're gonna have to, unless somebody can do something. But I felt this way for a long time.
yeah. So do you need a motion to put it out to RFP, Joe?
Yeah, if you wanted to, you could do that. And I just lost my thought. Oh, to your point of putting $1 million in there in the short term, you could be more aggressive than that.
Yeah.
And Rebecca and I talked about it. You could go as high as 4 if you wanted to.
Okay,
in something
let's do it.
short-term. And the point I wanted to convey, maybe I wasn't clear enough about it, I just want to make sure that, do some investment now
Yes.
while we work on the RFP. Because we won't
Absolutely.
get it out the door until early summer. We've
Yeah.
got to go through it. I've been through and done the grammar part of it, but we want to make sure that we've got it right, get it out the door and get it back. So it could be early fall by the time you're reviewing proposals. So it's right on track to coincide with the end of the 1-year extension. So
Yeah.
By all means, if you want to put the RFP, make a motion, then I'll work on it. Rebecca and I work on it, and we'll get it put out. And then if you wanted, you could make a motion to invest tonight, or if you want a little more time to get some numbers to look at it, but you can make that motion tonight. We can work with Seth and Becky.
Joe?
It would be nice, I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep, because I keep asking since I've been here for 9 years, is it would be really nice to have a treasury report, because we don't know how much money we can
No, we
invest.
don't.
We're saying, we're thinking $1 million, and you just said we could do 4 million.
Mhm.
So that's that's where the big gap is. And if we're in charge of the money,
Yep.
then, I mean, to me, that report is really crucial, but.
I agree, Madam Chair. This is
Yeah.
a discussion I've had with the finance director, and we're working on that.
Okay.
And we recognize how that fits into your job as
Mhm.
the stewards of the funds. And
Right.
We know that that's a piece of information that will be useful to you in future boards, so we are working on it as we move forward. And we want to get information in there that's useful to you, what's been received for taxes, what percentage of revenue, the taxes are biggest revenue.
Right.
You have that, what comfort level, what items will give you comfort level when you make your investments, which is,
Are we in the 2 months or the 3 month that
Mhm.
we're allowed for that policy? Yeah,
exactly.
so.
All right, so we have a couple of different discussions going on. So we've got a discussion regarding putting the RFP back out, which, Joe, forgive my memory, does that require a motion? Or is that just,
Yeah, you should,
okay.
yeah, you should.
all right, looking for a motion for that.
Before I enter into a motion, I know that it sounded like Joe wanted the RFP for banking to include the RFP for investing.
So, good, all right, yeah, so,
I'm of the mindset they should be separate.
Do what?
I'm of the mindset they should be separate. The
I think
banking
they should.
RFP should not be the same as the investment RFP. If for no other reason than there is a specific investment policy that directs us how to handle investment funds.
Mhm.
So that needs to go out specific to that investment policy.
yeah, that
That's
you could-
my opinion.
You could attach the investment policy to
Yeah, that was my intent, was to
That was his suggestion, but I'm saying I think they should be separate.
separate.
I do not
Yes.
believe they should be the same RFP. Again, just my opinion.
Any thoughts to the contrary? You want to think differently? Okay, and if there are, if we have area banks that wish to respond to both, they are more than welcome to. Okay,
That way you're not committing yourself for the next 5 years with one on the investment.
For investment
part.
purposes, it
And it's a
doesn't-
separate
it doesn't make
policy.
sense.
Yep,
It's
you're
not
right. I
smart.
completely agree.
We need to be able
Investing.
to, I'm sorry, we need to be able to change our investments
Yes.
when we want to.
right.
Yeah.
Right,
If we want to do it next meeting, I want to be able to do it.
okay, so first looking for a motion to put out an RFP for banking services.
So moved.
Ethna's motion
Second.
and Ethan seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And second is an RFP for investment services.
So moved.
Ethna's motion
Second.
and Ethan seconds. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. And so before we move on from this subject, let's discuss, so what's been drifting around the table here is taking advantage of the 4-week CDR. And Joe is stating we got 4 million we can put in and have it earn 4.59 APY,
up to 4 million.
up to 4 million.
Yeah, the checking account has around 9 million in it
All
today.
right,
Say it again.
4.9.
I had it as 4.95
okay, sorry.
on
I'm
the
just,
4 week. But then she kept saying they're the same, they're the same, they're the same, so it kind of threw me off.
APY 4.59.
Yeah,
That's what I have.
That's what I have for the 7-month CD,
That's what I had for the 7 months. I had 4.95
for 4.9 for the 4
for
week.
the 4 week, because that was the first number she
Yep.
threw out.
Yeah, that's what I have. written.
4.59 APY. We were keeping that
So
the same
both.
for a week.
She
or
said
7
4.9,
month,
but
or-
that's all right.
She did. I wrote it down. She
Yep,
said
I wrote it
4.9.
I have that written down.
For the 4 week.
4.9 for the 4 weeks, that was your special for
right.
your municipals.
Yeah, she was
Salaries.
quoting the APY, the rate itself is 4.5, but APY is
Right.
what you pretty much quote, and that's 4.59% for both 4 week or 7 month or anything in between.
Madam Chair, that is consistent with the telephone conversation we had.
okay,
It's 4.59 for both products.
okay, thank you, Seth, thank you, Joe, for clarifying.
I heard 4.95.
All right, So, all right, so a motion to invest up to $4 million, but we need a specific amount. So whoever wishes to make I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion that we invest $4 million into the Franklin Savings Bank 4-week CDR.
Second.
And Ethan seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay. Moving right along, new business, number 10, 1998 sewer improvement bond has matured. Joe?
That's here, this is paid in full. Just wanted to make you aware of it. No action required. It just happened to come in the mail on Friday. We'll be putting packets together. So well, there's some good news for the board,
Like it.
Tracy. Let's give it to them. So, and so when I looked at the back, I thought we had the wrong, I thought we got somebody else's mail. I'm like, town clerk, I don't recognize that name at all. So this must be someone else's. And then I realized what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So that was back in 1998. The
Goodness.
town entered into this.
I
Interest
graduated
rates
in
at
98,
that-
I still haven't matured.
Interest rates are 3.125. So no action required, just an
Okay.
update for you.
Super.
It's paid in full, that's all we need.
Paid in full. We like it.
One more down.
All righty, that's it for new business. Moving on to town manager report. Number 11. We've got the town, the department head updates are provided monthly, and it's not time for their department head updates yet, so later on in the month. Scenic byway grant, Joe, you want to jump into that?
Sure, I just wanted to let you know that Matt Dross from DOT sent me an email, I think Friday, right after we wrapped the packets up, that Rangeley was selected by the National Scenic Byway Council, I guess it's called, for our grant application, their grant application that was a joint project from the Harris Trust, the town, Maine DOT, to get just under $500,000 for the 2 gateway projects that we talked about a while back. The board has supported a letter of interest, a letter of support to be written. So we being the Rangeley region are the only group in Maine that on the byways network that received grant funding, and it's $480,000.
Oh.
So for the Depot Street, yeah, 481.
Or you want something in charge.
Yeah, and Depot Street or the Rangeley Village Gateway, and then the 4 and 16, parking area, which would be the Classic, one of the Classic gateways. So there's no real specific scope yet, except there, be some improvements to those to tie them to the byway. So that's great news. I mean,
Yeah.
it's perfect timing for Classic with all the other improvements that we're planning. So that was some more good news I wanted to share with you.
Like it. That's great. So yeah, big thank you to all those who submit, were involved with writing that grant. Page 2 of the agenda and the calendar. May 6th, which is this Friday, we've got the 7th annual trash pickup day. This Saturday, I'm sorry. I have no idea what I said. So, and Tracy, where are the garbage bags going to be located for people to grab?
I'll have trash bags at Building Supply and at Coob's Garage.
Okay,
I think I'm going to put them by the air hoses at Coob's and just right out front under Builder Supply's sign, so they're easy to grab.
wonderful.
And you can also buy gloves while you're there.
Thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome.
May 15th, the transfer station summer hours begin. May 15th at 5:30 PM, we have the warrant for the final public hearing, which I thought was tonight.
You do.
Oh, I don't know how, Joe. I took the time to take my phone out, bring up the first and enter it in. So sorry if I think I may have brought it up maybe at the last meeting and anyway, but it is 2 weeks from today. Other business, we've got the monthly financials provided. They are on the website. Poland Springs, at the last meeting, I think Selectman Lowell had inquired as to what the total draw had been. And we've got an email here from Chris Farmer regarding an answer to that question. So
All right, cool.
Mhm.
I got you. Everybody,
Thank you.
I just didn't send you.
Well, thank you. Now that Ethan's here, can I ask?
yes,
So how do we know when the water source is getting low? Is there any way to tell that? I know what the permit's for, but how do we know that we're not gonna drain our
You
water?
mean like the Rankin Water District water source? So we actively monitor the well levels every day. I can go on my phone and show it to you right now. So
Okay,
every single day we document it and we can constantly monitor it through our SCADA system.
it's just everybody notices more when the trucks are coming in and
Sure.
out.
No, we've
And
never seen a dent to our knowledge
Okay,
or any reason to question.
okay,
There's a lot of water out there, but when there isn't, we'll let you know.
I think good. That's important.
any other questions regarding the Poland Spring draw? Okay, so we've got the MDOT resident town letter for light capital paving. Joe?
Madam Chair, this is really informational, no
Yeah.
action required. I think there's a small section of the bottom of Dallas Hill Road that's gonna be paved, and then out towards McGalloway, that's where they're gonna really do most of that. The paving, I think they're setting up in Alaska. So it's just an awareness of light capital paving, that's skinny, a short mix that they put on the top there.
Forgive me, go
It's a 5/8.
till next year.
5/8 average. is what we call it. But then there's contact information there in case any of your constituents want more information, or you can send them our way and we'll connect them with the DOT.
Excellent. Any questions for Joe? Quasic Transportation Study Update. Joe?
This is the next three are basically verbal updates. Tracy and I met with TY Land, Tom Erico from TY Land, Jeff Trevor last week. And representatives from DOT on the Quasic Transportation project. And we really just went over the work that they've been doing so far. A lot of it hinged upon the crossing of the Rangeley River. You know, how do we set up sidewalks so that if the bridge is replaced in 30 years, the sidewalks are on the right side of the bridge, on the right side of the road. So the DOT, the bridge is in really good shape. DOT doesn't have any capital plans for that for 30 years. We talked about how practical is it to send pedestrians across the fish screen. It's not something I'm excited about, and neither was anybody else. But the idea is cool, but practically speaking, in terms of ADA safety and so forth, it's not a great idea. So right now, we're probably just gonna focus on getting from that parking lot at 4 and 16 to the boat launch, and then getting from the other side of the bridge to downtown Quasic, being prepared for 30 years down the road. When the state does something with that bridge, maybe they put a walkway on one side of it. And then we moved our way basically in sequence all the way down on the plans towards post office and then Haynes Lane. And I won't bore you with all the details, but it was us kind of flushing out what we're going to present to the public sometime mid-June. It may end up being July by the time we have that meeting. I just want to let you know that project is still plugging away in the background. There will be a public hearing either late June. Hopefully, it may end up being mid-July or something like that.
All right, so, and this is just the study, this is just, you know, okay, and
Right. Yeah, this is study. This is to determine what to design. This is where we get feedback from the public about where we would put sidewalks or curbs or parking or bike lanes. How do we handle the intersection of Rumford Road and Cary Road? You know, do we widen that for a truck? Do we put three-way stop? Early on, you may remember I mentioned it, there was a thought to put a roundabout there, which has not come up. I don't think that's practical, but something like a three-way stop might make sense. You know? So it's those type of things that are being examined, and then when that study is done, we'll be in a position to think about what do we want to design, and how do we phase it. I'm also meeting with, I think I might put this in the notes, meeting with Jeff Preble midweek this week to look at the overhead wires. We're meeting with CMP to see what that might cost, how practical it is. That's a big component of both villages. Is trying to get the overhead wires underground. So we hope to have a cost for that when you get the study complete. The study should give you an order of magnitude.
Unless we ask.
Right.
All right, any questions for Joe regarding the transportation study update? Cossack Park CIP update. Did you kind of work that into, or?
I did, but I can tell you with these next two items, Madam Chair, these are both to let you know that the draft, basically the draft stamp has been taken off these documents. You've looked at the BOS Park document, so that's now a final document. The one you have is the same. There's been no changes, just yours has stamp on it, and then with the next one, the sewer commission has reviewed that. That's the only difference there. Sewer commission has looked at the wastewater system, fiscal sustainability plan, and blessed it, and then it's now been sent to DEP for their review.
Any questions for Joe regarding the Aquatic Park? Yes.
So it's in regards to Aquasic, and one of the things that was in the comprehensive plan is a sewer, having sewer. I mean, I don't even know how that would be physically possible. Don't you have to have a land that you own that is big enough to facilitate those? And then again, are we worried about the properties that are located on the lake on that side at all with their own septic systems? I'm just throwing it out there because
Well,
I was actually
just-
talking to someone about it.
Well, you brought this up before. They've been down there to look at.
Yeah, the sewer commission, so that is in the comp plan, and the sewer commission kind of reverted it back to the select board and said, you know, either one of these options, you know, we'll look into it. The options were building a treatment system in Aquasic, or pumping it to Chick Hill, or deferring. You know, we talked about earmarking some of the sewer reserve to do a study down the road, but the more I talk with Jeff and others about it, neither one of those seemed terribly practical. You know, building a system in Aquasic or pumping it, it seems less practical. Pumping all the way to Aquasic would take days for it to get there. However, in terms of a planning exercise, you know, when you go across country like that, you could connect other parts of the town in eventually. So if you look at it in 50 or 100-year terms, it may not seem so bizarre. But right now it's not a high priority on anybody's radar. The sewer commission, our engineer, me, you know, the sewer staff are not. You know, we're not saying, you know, we need to do something with it right now. I think the intent of the comprehensive plan was to make sure that there was not seepage or leakage into the water, which is probably one of the biggest parts of our brand. You know, it's a big asset to us. So I think that's what we need to keep an eye on if development continues to happen. That, you know, we're not forgetting about the systems that exist currently. You know,
Right.
Some of those lots only have one place where they can put a septic system,
Right.
and when that fails, then what do they do?
Exactly.
I think that was the logic behind even bringing up sewer services in the comp plan. So, and there are other types of treatment. You know, there's tertiary treatment, which we used to have here, which basically goes into the water. I mean, it's clean when it goes, but yeah, I don't know how well that would go over in Aquasic. So,
Right. Yeah.
and maybe the system down the road could go towards. I digress there a little bit, but it's not a high priority right now. But in terms of planning, I think the town should probably keep an eye on it.
Right.
You know, for 25, 50, 100-year projections. water quality issues.
Thank you.
But for the sake of the comprehensive plan, the sewer, it's been reviewed.
Mhm.
It's not a practical
Right.
project to even discuss or think or
Yep.
move forward with. Wastewater system fiscal, all right, did you already?
Yep.
Okay, that's right.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you, Seth.
Night.
All right, select board communication. Ethan, you got anything?
Yeah, I was at the water district meeting the other day and the trustees accepted the only bid that was put forth for the river crossing. I spoke with Joe a little bit about this before that was approved. So M&H will be doing that project, but it also involves replacing all the water main on Richardson Street, which means that street will be torn up. I know it's on our list. I don't know that it's on the top of the list, but I thought we might think about the fact that there's shovels down there and it's gonna be all torn up and repatched in. Not a very big road. It could be a chance to resurface that road while it's all torn up. However, we want to work it out if we want to work it out, but I want everybody to know that's happening. And maybe we consider doing like we did before and having the highway department do the grade work and have it resurfaced while everything's all patched and ripped up. But I just want everybody to know that's happening, and I think that's going to happen in late July, August, I think, but I'm not sure about that. So don't quote me on the last part.
All right, thank you, Ethan. Shelley, anything?
So I already put the park dock update for the fencing, and Joe answered that one. And then the airport funds update from our last meeting where we were gonna get to figure out what that dollar amount was on that. What that official dollar amount was.
The interest.
No, we got the
No, we
interest.
moved the interest, but there was a dollar amount that we took out of the Chick Hill funds and specifically put it into the airport.
Right.
Wasn't that the question? Really?
Yeah, it was, what amount didn't get moved to the general reserve, and why? I think there was just, there's just.
I went as far as finding a set of minutes that told me the date, or some note that told me the date that vote was taken. That's about as far as I've gotten with it.
Okay.
The bookend of that thought is that I'm beginning to work on the CIP capital improvement plan at the airport with our consultant and DOT. And one of the items that needs to happen is pavement striping. And there's some debate right now about, is that a town cost? It historically was, but with the new federal legislation, can that be applied for with federal funds, which if it is, I'm intending to try to apply to get that, amend our CIP, but it needs to be done soon. I'll find out what I'll look at that date and find out what that amount was, but there was an amount, as I recall, that was left in the airport that was for things like that may be the town's responsibility.
And I can say this with a fair amount of confidence. Cindy was here and we did it. So was Steve. I think it was about 110,000 that was left in the account.
I thought it was a little more, but
It may be, but,
Yeah.
but I remember the discussion. I remember the
Yeah.
vote, and Steve was heavy in that discussion.
yeah,
And it's over 100,000, but I don't believe it's a ton more. But it should be in the minute somewhere because it was a
right,
vote.
yeah. All right, so that update will be forthcoming.
And then I just had the treasury report samples update, but he already gave that, so I'm good.
Okay. Ethna? Sam?
Well, it's spring and we're starting to see a lot of our wonderful wildlife out and about crossing the roads, and I don't know what you guys have done in the past as far as those cute little ducklings that cross over on Main Street, and and there's gonna be a influx of car traffic, and is it possible to like put this duck crossing or there's deer, right in front of, I can almost hit one right outside of the shed the other couple weeks ago.
I believe it's a DOT ask.
But
Okay,
just little.
I can make that ask if the board wants me to, and
And even just with, because I know at both ends of the town, I feel like you see a ton of wildlife crossing. I have. And it just terrifies me with people driving down, not paying attention, especially when you can increase your speed at, you know, a certain point in town. And, I don't know.
They had, yeah, DOT is, they've had signs, they removed signs, like there was a deer crossing or like by Judkins Road that no
Yeah,
longer is
That
there.
should be-
And, but yeah, DOT puts up those signs, and there are certain, I mean, there's certain folks that inland fisheries and wildlife will visit to tell them to stop feeding wildlife, because it is a risk to motorists and motor vehicles.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, not only worried about the wildlife, but exactly, I mean, and the traumatic effect and,
Yeah,
you know, whatever.
Well, because you have the people that are stopping traffic, running across the road saying, stop, 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 letting the ducks cross the street,
Oh, okay.
because they're feeding them
Yeah,
all
Yeah.
year round. So
Right.
they're not even flying south.
I haven't seen them, but that's.
No,
what-
they're right there, right
I mean,
beside.
I've seen them since, we'll cross them out, like, oh.
Yeah.
But, you know. just- I didn't know if that was something that, you know, the town could do, or if it was already addressed in that.
yeah, no, it's a good question. I'd rather tell them to stop feeding the ducks, but
That's not
yeah. You know, there has to be proof that there's a hazard, you know. Anyhow,
When she comes running out the road, sometimes it is a hazard.
yeah.
Take pictures of the dead ones every time. Because there was 3 last year.
But the town can't put out signs. It would need to be a DOT thing, correct?
We would need, yeah, at the very least, we would need the DOT's permission to put a sign in the court.
Yeah.
It sounds like there might be, I'm hearing there's a specific place, so maybe I can talk with the police chief, who probably knows what you're talking about.
I'm sure he does.
I'm sure it is.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe he and I can come up with something.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sam. I don't have anything. So next up is executive session, and we need a motion.
Make a motion to enter into executive session. According to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056A, Personnel Matters, Town Manager Contract.
Second.
Beth's motion, Ethan seconds. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. All right, so, all right, I'll declare us out of executive session. And we need a motion for the board to send communication to the town manager so we can discuss his future contract with the town.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to have Chairperson Egan correspond with Joe by email, letting him know that we wish to extend this contract with the same terms and conditions we currently have.
Ethan's motion
Second.
and Ethna's seconds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. A motion to adjourn is next on the
So moved.
Ethna's motion to adjourn.
Okay.
And Sam seconds. All those in favor? And that's unanimous.
Who was second?
Sam.
Sorry, Sam, I'm quick.
All right,
draw
thank you,
tonight.
everybody.
It was moving so good, I just figured I'd keep whacking it.
I think we've